And thank you very much for coming. My name is William Baloy from GCIS, and we want to take this opportunity to welcome you to the Roni Mamwepa press room. And maybe for those who are joining us for the first time, the rules are as follows. Let's try to keep our gadgets on silence so that they don't interfere with the process as we proceed. Secondly, where you are seated, you would see there are buttons. When you want to speak or recognized to speak, you press that button. It will show a red light, and that's where you speak so that we can record also your question, but also to make sure that it's amplified, even if the sound system is a little bit low, but that will assist in amplification of your question. The normal process that we use, you raise your hand, we will recognize it, then you introduce yourself, including, of course, the media house that you are representing, and then you go to your questions. Normally, we start with questions in the press room, and after they are responded, we go to the questions that are posted online. And you can also follow the post-briefing, the cabinet post-briefing on our YouTube, including, of course, the GCIS platform. It will also be live on that one. On that note, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you all, and you are all welcomed. Joining the team in giving the sign language interpretation, it's Mpho Charity Mabona on my left, and I think later on she will interchange with a colleague that I think I'm familiar with, Jonathan Kebe. They will be our sign language interpreters for today. The minister is joined by the acting DG of GCIS, Ms. Nomonde Mnokwa, who is here, and also it's the one who's always details are on the bottom of the cabinet statement and the advisory. Colleagues, without taking much of the time, I think today you have a busy schedule, but we'll make sure that all the questions that you ask are accommodated and are responded to. Then allow me to request the minister in the presidency to come and take
On private sector participation in rail and port freight logistics projects, Cabinet welcomed the launch of the request for information on private sector participation in rail and port freight logistics projects, as this is part of the critical reforms to improve South Africa's logistics sector and thus improving economic growth through improved exports. The roadmap for freight logistics system in South Africa promotes greater competition in rail and port terminal operations, which will attract private investment, but strategic infrastructure such as rail lines and ports remain in public ownership. On energy, Cabinet welcomed the addition of 800 megawatts of new generation capacity to the national grid after Eskom successfully brought Kusile Power Station's final generation unit online. This will help stabilize the grid and strengthen our nation's future energy security. On quarterly employment statistics, Cabinet welcomed the increase in employment by 12,000 jobs to make the employment numbers 10.64 million in the formal non-agricultural sector during the fourth quarter of 2024. Statistics South Africa's quarterly employment statistics reflected employment gains in the trade, business services, transport, and the electricity sector. Despite the modest improvement, full employment remains lower than it was a year ago. Cabinet has committed to drive structural reforms and implement economic growth-focused programs in order to create conducive environment for job creation. On the proclamation of the Climate Change Act 2022 of 2024, Cabinet welcomed the proclamation of the Climate Change Act of 2024, Act number 22, by President Ramaphosa on Monday, 17th March 2025, which enables the development of effective climate change policies and the long-term plan for a transition to a low-carbon economy and society. Cabinet also welcomed the International Partners Group, IPG, a coalition of countries comprising the United Kingdom, Germany, France, and the EU, to fill the funding gap left by the US after its withdrawal from the Just Energy Transition Partnership. The total international pledges to South Africa now amount to $12.8 billion US dollars, which include more than $9 billion US dollars from the IPG, along with the contributions from Spain, Switzerland, and Canada. On international relations, South Africa-Japan relations, Cabinet welcomed the firmer ties between South Africa and Japan following Deputy President Paul Mashatile working visit to Japan from the 17th to the 19th of March 2025, aimed at strengthening the existing cooperation between South Africa and Japan in areas of mutual interest. Engagements were also held with the Japan International Cooperation Agency to explore areas of economic collaboration, the Association for African Economic Development in Japan to discuss trade and investment opportunities, and the Japan Organization for Metals and Energy Security to highlight investment opportunities in the mining sector. On health, on the hemp and cannabis food product regulations withdrawal, Cabinet welcomed the withdrawal by the Department of Health of regulations banning the sale of hemp and cannabis food products, whilst acknowledging the negative impact of the unregulated sale of hemp and cannabis food products on possible consumption by children. Such regulations must be fully consulted, must not be in contempt of the Constitutional Court judgment, and must not contravene the Cannabis for Private Purposes Act, which was proclaimed last year. The Department of Justice and Constitutional Development is coordinating an interdepartmental draft regulations for the implementation of the Cannabis for Private Purposes Act, and those regulations will be issued for public participation. On the foot and mouth disease, Cabinet was updated on the extension of the KwaZulu-Natal disease management area boundaries to cap further outbreaks of foot and mouth disease in the province. And the expanded areas includes the municipalities of Big Five, Hlabisa, Mtubatuba, Nongoma, Ulundu, Umhlabawalingana, Jozini, Pongola, Abaxulusi, Mfolozi, Mhlatuze, Mathonjaneni, Ngutu, Nkandla, umlalazi, and mundane. No clove-hoofed animals, which is cattle, fish, sheep, and goats, or their products, or genetic material may be moved from or within the DMA unless authorized by a state veterinarian through a permit. On the crime prevention and security, on crime prevention, Cabinet welcomed the arrest of 12,892 suspects between 17th March to 23 March 2025 by the South African Police Service as part of Operation Shanyela. This include 1,753 wanted suspects for serious and violent crimes such as murder, attempted murder, rape, business and house robberies. Additionally, 1,794 suspects were arrested for assault with grievous bodily harm, and 203 drug dealers were arrested. A further 1,507 suspects were arrested for possession of drugs, and 115 suspects for the possession of illegal firearms. On the continuing misinformation and disinformation campaigns, Cabinet noted with concern the continuing misinformation campaigns by Solidaridad and AfriForum and their allies, and law enforcement agencies are investigating the violations of South African laws. To prevent further misinformation, the South African Police Services met with AfriForum to clarify the allegations of white genocide with reference to farm murders. At the meeting, AfriForum considered that the crime statistics as released by the Minister of Police are accurate, including on farm murders. It is common knowledge that some of the farm murders are committed by people known to the farmers, including their own family members. Cabinet is also aware of the false claim that there are approximately 72,000 white farmers who have signed up to relocate to the USA in response to the invitation by the US President. According to data, both from Agri-SA, Stats SA, and the Department of Agriculture, South Africa only has 41,000, just over 41,000 commercial farmers. And therefore, there cannot be 72,000 commercial farmers leaving South Africa. On the fight against corruption, Cabinet welcomed the launched Border Management and Immigration Anti-Corruption Forum on the 25th of March 2025 as part of efforts to clamp down on corruption in border management and migration. On updates to Cabinet, the Group of 20 Summit preparatory meetings, South Africa continues to host a series of high-level G20 meetings in the build-up to the G20 Summit in November 2025. Recent meetings were held as follows. The first G20 Trade and Investment Working Group meeting, which took place virtually on the 18th to the 20th of March 2025, and it discussed building inclusive economies, the successes and failures of the multilateral trade system over the last 30 years. It also discussed trade and inclusive growth, a responsive trade agenda, green industrialization, and the reform of the World Trade Organization, the WTO. The next meeting was a national dialogue towards the Agricultural Working Group engagement and the G20's meeting on agricultural chief scientists held on the 18th of March 2025 virtually, and it discussed agricultural sustainability, innovation, and resilience. Also, the G20 International Financial Architecture Working Group, which met in Pretoria on the 18th March to deliberate on Africa's debt crisis. South Africa hosted the preparatory meeting on the 20th of March 2025 for the African Union Africa Water Investment Program, Water Investment Summit 2025, scheduled for August 2025. Also, the G20 Environment and Climate Sustainability Working Group convened on the 25th March 2025 and focused key environmental and climate change priorities. The second G20 Health Working Group meeting is currently underway until the 28th of March 2025. The meeting is deliberating on strengthening and promoting equitable access to health services. The G20 Digital Economy Working Group Task Force on Artificial Intelligence will take place in Gqeberha from the 7th to the 11th of April 2025 to focus on digital transformation and inclusive social economic growth. Cabinet also received an assessment on the status and preservation of South Africa's World Heritage Sites in line with the G20 minimum standards for preparation and hosting of the G20. Cabinet noted that 7 out of the 12 South Africa's World Heritage Sites are ready to host G20 guests, but some refurbishment is required for an enhanced visitor experience. The 8th South Africa EU Summit. Should I wait for you? The 8th South Africa EU Summit. Cabinet welcomed the strengthening of the strategic partnership between the South Africa and the EU at the 8th South Africa EU Summit held on the 13th March 2025 in South Africa. The EU reiterated its support for South Africa's G20 presidency and the importance of the G20 as a global forum for international economic cooperation. The EU also announced a 93.5 billion rands, global gateway investment package to support strategic investment projects in clean and just energy transition, digital and fiscal connectivity infrastructure, and the local pharmaceutical industry. On the progress report on the registration of spaza shops and other food handling outlets and interventions to curb foodborne illnesses, Cabinet received progress report on the registration of spaza shops and other food handling outlets, as well as an update on the work that is being done to curb foodborne illnesses. The registration process is completed unless for a person wishing to open a new spaza shop. Migration of South African Social Security Agency grant beneficiaries to the new post-bank card. Cabinet received an update on the migration of SASSA grant beneficiaries to the new and secure post-bank black cards. The deadline for SASSA beneficiaries to swap their SASSA Gold Card for the Post-Bank Black Card has been extended to 30th of April 2025 to allow SASSA and the Department of Social Development to complete the migration of the outstanding beneficiaries. And they are confident that the number that is outstanding, they should be able to complete it within the month coming through. I can wait for the new team to set up if they're going to be quick so that we can then move to cabinet decisions. Just so that we do not have problems with the viewers and not understanding what's happening, we are waiting for the setup. But in terms of the SASSA migration, the SASSA and the Department of Social Development has assured the Reserve Bank that they are only left with 800,000 beneficiaries to migrate, and therefore the 1 month of April that they've extended the period for is sufficient for them to complete the migration process. And with that, they should be able to have everybody on board. But also for those that they will not be able to migrate, or those who do not go to the relevant post offices and also to the local retailers and the SASSA offices, if you do not do that, or if your parents or your elders do not go for to change your cards, you will be able to still get your social grants, but you'll have to go to the SASSA offices to receive them. Should I proceed? Cabinet decisions. Phase 2 of Operation Vulindlela. Cabinet approved the focus area of Operation Vulindlela, a joint initiative of the Presidency and the National Treasury to drive structural reforms The focus areas include the completion of outstanding work of Phase 1 in the areas of energy, water, visa, and logistics reforms, and the new focus areas of local government, spatial inequality, and digital transformation. Cabinet directed that OV, in consultation with the relevant line departments, consider additional reforms focus areas in reindustrialization and localization to also to unlock infrastructure build and on the oil and gas sector and exploration. Cabinet noted that South Africa remains the 8th country with the largest reserves of gas, and the impending gas cliff requires the country to build self-provisioning capacity in the areas of gas. Cabinet will also hold a special meeting to focus on economic growth plan for the country within the next 4 weeks. This is part of the commitment. The Minister of Finance also announced that we are going to work on mechanism to generate additional revenue by ensuring that the economy grows. Integrated National Water Quality Management Policy. Cabinet approved the implementation of the Integrated Water Quality Management Policy. The policy seeks to address water quality challenges as outlined in the 1997 White Paper on National Water Policy for South Africa and the National Water Act. The policy outlines a set of principles that form the basis for water quality management. It provides an alignment to all relevant water-related legislation and the country's global commitments to the provisioning and conservation of water as a scarce resource. The South African Renewable Energy Master Plan, SAREM. Cabinet approved the South African Renewable Energy Master Plan for implementation. In short, it's called SAREM. The SAREM seeks to leverage the rising demand for renewable energy and storage technologies to promote industrialization and localization. The master plan focuses on solar and wind energy, lithium-ion, battery and vanadium-based battery storage technologies, and it is designed to be a living document. Cabinet directed that additional work be done on the master plan to incentivize investors to fund renewable energy supply development and to include development of green hydrogen fuel in order to meet the international obligation of 5% blended fuel in aviation and maritime sectors by 2030. And the digital transformation of government roadmap. Cabinet approved the digital transformation of government roadmap that aims to leverage technology to enhance public service delivery and government efficiencies. Issues which are being addressed include interdepartmental coordination, outdated systems, overlapping mandates, and limited skills or capacity. It is designed to deliver a people-centered digital government that better understands the needs of the people, particularly vulnerable groups, by ensuring efficient and effective service delivery. On bills, Cabinet approved the submission of the draft South African National Water Resource Infrastructure Agency Amendment Bill. The amendment to Parliament. The amendments relate to the listing of the National Water Resource Infrastructure Agency as a Schedule 2 state-owned company. On appointments, all appointments are subject to verification of qualifications and relevant security clearances. Cabinet approved the appointment of Mr. Fumurani Pitane-Chipara as the Director General in the Department of Social Development. Cabinet approved the appointment of members of the South African Council for the Non-Proliferation of Weapons of Mass Destruction, and the chairperson of the members of the council is Ms. Ditebo Khohomu, and the other members are Dr. Kelvin Kem, Dr. Alison Lewisi, Mr. Gian Makon, Ms. Hauhelo Mohasho, Ms. Elsie Monale, Mr. Sandile Ndlovu, Ms. Deidre Penfold, Ms. Lizelle Reinecker, Professor Bismarck, Ms. M. Tobeka, and Dr. Jacqueline Weyer. Cabinet also approved the appointment of members of the South African Forestry Company Limited, who are Professor Edward Nesamvuni as the chairperson, Mr. Nishan Balton, who's being reappointed, Ms. Lihlane Malima, who's being reappointed, Mr. Norman Baloyi, Mr. Leo Long, Mr. Njabeko Hrodbom, Advocate Noma Zocho Yvonne Memani, Mr. Zintayo Madula, Mr. Zwitwa Madula, and Ms. Sharon Mkize and Ms. Ntombufuti Nkosi. On upcoming events, World TB Day. South Africa commemorated the World TB Day on the 24th of March 2025. And though it's not an upcoming event but a past event, it's important for South Africa, for us to communicate this, because South Africa continues to deal with the scourge of TB. And the theme was, yes, you and I can end TB, commit, invest, and deliver. Cabinet is pleased that South Africa has reduced its TB incidence rate by 57% in 2023 to meet the World Health Organization target of reducing TB incidence by 50% from 2015 to 2025. Our large antiretroviral program has contributed to better TB outcomes, including successful treatment and reduced mortality. Cabinet calls on all South Africans to visit their nearest clinic or hospital for free TB screening. Water and sanitation Indaba, which is taking place from today to tomorrow at the Gallagher Estate under the theme Water Security and Provisioning. The Indaba will advance commitments made in the 2025-2029 Medium-Term Development Plan and Operation Vulindlela, Phase 2, as part of the 7th Administration Turnaround Strategy for the water sector. The Indaba will also measure progress made in the action plan of the Water Summit 2024 and reflect on blue, green, and no-drop reports of December 2023. The Women Economic Assembly, WICONA, which advocates for equal economic participation of women in the mainstream economy to curb the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide, will take place on the 28th of March 2025. The National Initiative brings together companies, government departments, organizations, and individuals to create pathways for women-owned businesses to participate in the economy. Freedom Month. South Africa will celebrate Freedom Month in April and our Freedom Day on the 27th of April 2027. Freedom Day and Freedom Month are a momentous occasion to celebrate as one nation, as our country marks the founding of a united, non-racial, non-sexist, and democratic South Africa that is committed to the values of human dignity, non-racialism, and non-sexism, and the respect of the rule of law as espoused in our Constitution. This year's Freedom Day celebrations national event will take place in Mpumalanga, and it will also mark the conclusion of the year-long celebration of 30 years of freedom and democracy. The African Children's Summit, which will take place from the 3rd to the 7th of April 2025 in Johannesburg. South Africa was selected as the location for this summit, with the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund as the lead civil society organization. Participants from across the continent will convene for this child-led conference to facilitate dialogue between policymakers and children. And then the 17th International Association of Women Judges Biennial Conference. South Africa will host the 17th International Association of Women Judges Biennial Conference in Cape Town from the 9th to the 12th of April 2025 under the theme Resilience, Women in Leadership to NGBV. The conference is hosted by the South African chapter of the IAWJ and brings together judges and legal professionals from around the world. It will explore ways to end GBVF by championing women's rights and leadership. The conference will feature legal luminaries such as Chief Justice Mandisa Maya. The presidential oversight visit to Nelson Mandela Bay in the Eastern Cape. The presidential oversight visit to Nelson Mandela Bay Metro. President Ramaphosa will undertake a presidential oversight visit to Gqeberha on the 15th and 16th April 2025 to assess progress on service delivery, challenges and opportunities for inclusive economic growth. The presidential oversight visit will be attended by leaders from all three spheres of government and provides an opportunity for government to interact with residents. But during this visit, we'll also interact with other stakeholders as part of their work to support the local government intervention as led by COGTA under the Operation Vulindlela Phase 2 project. The African Green Hydrogen Summit, which will take place from the 12th to the 13th of June 2025. South Africa will host the inaugural Africa Green Hydrogen Summit from the 12th to the 13th of June 2025. The Africa Green Hydrogen Summit aims to promote regional collaboration, facilitate technology sharing and capacity building, and to enable market access in the green hydrogen sector. Cabinet wishes to congratulate and extend its well wishes to Her Excellency President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah on her inauguration as the President of Namibia. She's also the first female president of her country, who appointed the first ever female vice president, Her Excellency Lucia Witbooi, and also a female-dominated cabinet. If she was in South Africa, we'll say Mbokodo. We want to extend our congratulations and well wishes to Team South Africa for their outstanding performances at the 2025 Special Olympics World Winter Games in Italy and the World Athletics Indoor Championships in China. At the Special Olympic Winter Games, South Africa won 1 gold, 3 silver, and 2 bronze medals. And our congratulations goes to Naledi Hlalele, who won gold in figure skating, Bianca Basson and Kenneth Mokabo, who won silver in figure skating, Shane Bentley, who won silver in short track speed skating, Tyrell Skies, who won bronze in figure skating, and Chanel Swartz, who won bronze in short tracking speed skating. We also congratulate Team South Africa at the World Athletics Indoor Championships in China, who won as follows: Prudence Sekhodiso, who delivered a historic win by being the first South African woman to win a gold medal at the World Athletics Indoor Championships in the 800-meter distance. Akani Simbine for winning the bronze medal in the 60-meter final at the World Athletics Indoor Championships. And the magnificent efforts were also achieved by Cheswell Johnson in the men's long jump and Chris van Niekerk in the shot put. We also wish to extend our congratulations and well wishes to the youth sprinting sensation Bayanda Walaza, who broke through the sub-10 barrier, clocking the 5th world's fastest junior 100-meter and South Africa's under-20 record at 9.9 seconds to win gold at the Athletics Gauteng North Championships. To Coach Rase Erasmus for being named Coach of the Year for the 2024 at the SA Rugby Awards. To Springbok Chelsea Kolbe for becoming the first backline player since 2013 to win the 2024 South African Rugby Men's Player of the Year. We also wish to congratulate Nadine Ross for being honored as South African Rugby Women's Player of the Year for 2024, and this is for the second time in 3 years for her. To Bafana for topping Group C in the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers with a 2-0 triumph over Lesotho at the full-to-capacity Peter Mokaba Stadium. South Africa singer Tyler Laura Sithal, popularly known as Tyler, who was named the World Artist of the Year at the iHeart Radio Music Awards. On condolences, Cabinet wishes to express its condolences to the family and friends of Miss Yolanda Nyembezi, popularly known as Yolanda, who was a multifaceted musician who captivated audiences with a rich voice and passionate artistry. Mr. Ashwin Trikamji, the president of the South African Hindu Mahasabha and the chairperson of the National Religious Leaders Forum, a human rights lawyer. He was also instrumental in the development of football or soccer in South Africa, As an anti-apartheid activist, he led the Durban Central component of the Natal Indian Congress. To the family and friends of the 6 community patrollers who were killed, and the speedy recovery to the other 6 community patrollers who were injured at this Merimi informal settlement in Soshanguve. The deceased from the Soshanguve crimes murder are Mpho Johannes Koko, who was 19 years old, Philemon Sishoka, who was 37 years old, Katleho Mutlouzi, who was 31 years old, Andres Moreletedi Etlhabane, who was 44 years old, Silky Nwayeng, who was 20 years old, and there's still one person whose identity is unknown. 2 people have been arrested and appeared in court yesterday, Wednesday, the 26th March, 2025. Cabinet has also sent its well wishes to the other 6 who are injured, and for their own safety, so that people don't go for them in hospital. We are not going to release their names. We also wish to extend our condolences to the family and friends of Mr. James O'Connelly, the pilot who was killed when his Impala Mark 1 aeroplane crashed while performing at the West Coast Air Show at the Saldanha Airfield in the Western Cape. May their souls rest in peace and speedy recovery to those who are injured. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the statement, but also thank you very much for accommodating us when we inconvenience you in the middle of the delivery, the speech, to accommodate our colleagues. Colleagues, let me take this opportunity to invite questions from the House. The drill is the same. You raise your hand, identify, and then you go for your question. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, I'm a journalist. The President Trump has nominated a new American ambassador to South Africa. Was this nomination discussed on yesterday's cabinet briefing, and what is cabinet's comment on that? And then AfriForum has written to Ramaphosa to ask you to condemn the singing of Kill the Boer. This is after Julius Malema sang it on Human Rights Day. Was this a topic on yesterday's cabinet briefing, and does the cabinet have any thoughts on that matter? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question from the House? Yes, sir.
Good morning, Liam Avunisa, News from Africa. Minister, I just want to find out, I have with me a document that comes from the Nelson Mandela Bay municipality. The executive mayor there has launched a petition initiative on the 20th of March 2025 to demand urgent action against, or rather from the president, with regards to crime prevention in the metro. Do you perhaps have any knowledge of this, and what are you going to do going forward with the petition that the executive mayor has launched, and perhaps is this not in conjunction with government nationally? And then also just to get clarity on the hemp and cannabis, the withdrawal by the Department of Health. I understand you did say that you do support the withdrawal as government, but I just want to get clarity. Is it a withdrawal in the formal term of a long-term plan, or are you perhaps saying that you are still going to invite public consultation, even with the business sector, to really ensure that you reach consensus with all of those sectors before you actually can proclaim that you are withdrawing it formally? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? Minister, in the absence of any other question from the House, we'll invite you to.
Given that there are not many, can we do the online ones so that we answer once and then we can do the phone?
With that guidance, thank you very much. Vanessa will assist us with the online questions, though I see, Minister, most of the others are still typing on the online platform. Vanessa, the ones that we have?
Shannon Merricks at Gasi Broadcasting Africa. The first question, what is the process before and after appointment as a minister or ambassador in terms of security clearance and background checks by state security agency? Did Minister Gayton McKenzie get security clearance? If Minister Gayton McKenzie received security clearance as a convicted criminal, what does this mean for South Africa's integrity? Another question is from Prince at NetVac24. Did the cabinet discuss the current impasse with the national budget? And is it concerned about the possibility that it might not be passed in parliament, as various political parties indicated that they will not support it because of the proposed VAT increase? His second question, can the minister please provide further clarity or details on exactly what and who law enforcement agencies are investigating regarding the violations of South African laws with regard to the continuing misinformation and disinformation campaigns? The next question is from Queening Maswabi at Sunday World. Was there any discussion around digital migration? Will the government be able to migrate households by March 31st? That's all the questions we have so far.
Thank you very much, Minister. You might the session for us. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. It's an interesting set of questions. Let's start on the question of the U.S. ambassador. The U.S. is a sovereign state, so they have the right to choose their own ambassador. They don't have to consult with us. Ours is when we receive the credentials, to consider the credentials and decide whether to accept and not accept them. And that is not a cabinet discussion, it's the responsibility of the Department of International Relations and Cooperations. And the AfriForum letter of demand on kill the Boer, kill the farmer, I haven't seen the letter to the president, but I want to give this following commentary. South Africans will recall that the matter of the singing of revolutionary songs that were alleged to incite violence were taken to court, and the court judgment came to say the singing of the song has its context, is not inflammatory. It is part of the history of this country, and it cannot just be washed away. And singing it has nothing, is not an incitement of violence.